What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today I'm going to be taking you through a quarterback throwing mechanics quiz, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you 3 specific clips of quarterbacks with incorrect throwing mechanics, and you guys are going to try to think about what the quarterback is doing wrong, how he can improve that, and then I'm going to break down the throw and talk about what he did specifically wrong and what I would do with the quarterback to improve that specific skill. So I'm going to play the video full speed, then you guys are going to pause the video, think about what the quarterback might have done wrong, how you would go about improving his mechanics, and then play the video where I'm going to give an explanation, okay? So I'm going to play this full speed, then break it down in slow motion as well. So this is a throw here from Klubnik, quarterback out of Texas. So the main thing I want us to focus on here, think about his hip rotation and his mechanics. I'll play this thing in slow motion, and you guys can pause the clip right about now. Think about what he could do better. And now I'm going to get into this explanation, okay? So now, this specific type of throw. So a lot of times quarterbacks, we talk about hip rotation. We talk about, being able to get your front hip to open up, driving with your back hip and letting your hips go through before the shoulders. So you see how when he makes this throw, he kind of has that lean out of there. You see how his upper half is sort of leaning towards this sideline over here? And that is simply due to lack of front hip rotation. So if that's something you guys thought when you paused this video, you were 100% right, and that's going to throw off your sequence. So what do I mean by sequence? So every single throw that you guys have, the sequence of the throw should be front stride gets down, hips rotate through, then the shoulders come through, then the ball comes through. So now what this quarterback does wrong is that he doesn't transfer his weight enough to the front foot to where his front hip opens up, because it's all about weight transfer. So he steps with the front foot. You could tell he's driving off of this back foot, but he's not getting that back knee to kind of like turn through. He's not getting his hip to turn through. So that front hip is very restricted. So you see how that front hip kind of locks out right there? His front leg kind of locks out. His weight still stays on this side of his body. So the problem with that is, as a quarterback, we're rotational athletes, right? So we're going to rotate one way or the other. We're either going to rotate with my shoulders or we are going to rotate at my hips. And if I'm restricting my front hip simply because I didn't transfer enough weight, when you guys don't transfer your weight and get 90 to 100% of your weight on that front foot, that's when the hip blocks out. When my hip blocks out, the only way I'm going to rotate is by dipping my head out of there, dipping my shoulder out of there, and that's going to affect the release point and kind of take it outside of my frame. But more importantly, those hips, that back leg are going to trail behind my shoulders, and the plane that my shoulders are going to be on, my elbow and my shoulder, are leading my back hip. We want my back hip to be leading my shoulders and leading my elbow, because that's what gives me torque and that's what gives me power on the throw. So all that is solely due to that lack of hip rotation, and that's what causes that little lean out of there with the head, little lean out of there with the shoulders, which can affect release point. And again, like I said, not going to have as much power. So when you guys pause the clip, if that's what you said, that's a good sign. You're seeing that in quarterbacks. And the whole reason we include this video, fellas, is just so you guys can see, because sometimes seeing an incorrect way of doing things and being able to recognize it helps you guys out a ton. I know from personal perspective, because I got into coaching young, that when I started coaching quarterbacks and started trying to correct quarterbacks' form, I became a better quarterback myself. When you guys are just constantly told like what to do and you never have to see somebody else do something incorrect, like if you're out at a training session with a trainer or you're at practice, you should be looking at the other quarterbacks and being like, oh, okay, he did that wrong. Oh, he did that wrong. And try to keep up with the coach who's coaching them, because that helps your own game get better, right? That's the whole point of this specific video. So let's play this thing full speed. Just make sure, fellas, when we rotate through, we're getting that full hip rotation and getting that front hip to open up a little bit sooner than he does in this specific clip. All right, before I get into this next clip, fellas, I want to talk to you guys about an opportunity we are having this offseason. We are traveling out to 8 more cities on our 2-day-long quarterback wide receiver training camp tour. So we just got back from Tampa, Florida. If you guys came out to that camp, we really appreciate it. We really loved having you guys out there. And now we're going to be traveling to Houston, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Los Angeles, California. So if you guys are local in any one of those cities and want to come out and get some great work in with me and my staff for 2 whole days, check out that very first link in the description below. Spots are going to be limited, fellas. Our Houston, Arizona, and New Jersey camps are almost completely sold out, because we're only taking 10 to 12 guys per position group, per age group, because we actually want to take the time to coach you guys, not just run you through drills and put you through the whole gamut like all these other camps do. If you guys do something wrong, we're going to correct it, and we're going to tell you guys how to fix it. So if you guys are local to one of those 8 cities, want to come out with us, check out that very first link in the description below. Like I said, let's get back to this video. So now this second clip here, I'm going to play it, then we're going to pause the video, same kind of format. So he's coming off here, he's throwing this like 10-yard out, right? So I'm going to play this thing in slow motion. I want you guys to think about what this quarterback could do better, what he could improve on, and what he did wrong in this specific clip, okay? So now you guys can pause the video, and then I'm going to get into a breakdown. So now I'm going to break this thing down. I'm going to talk about what he did wrong, okay? So now, when he got into this drop, so we're throwing a timing like 10-yard speed out, right? So when you're under center and you're throwing this timing 10-yard speed out, it's going to be a rhythm 5-step drop. So you're just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hitting the 5th step, and you're ripping this thing, right? So this throw is one of those throws where you have to bullet it, you have to be on time. Timing is such an important thing here. But the main thing I want to focus on is his front side. So when you guys pause the clip, if you guys said anything about his front side swinging down, and his elbow swinging down, you guys would be correct, right? So now, when you guys throw, obviously the sequence of the throw we love to talk about, right? You want to get your hips through first, then the shoulders, then the ball, but you also want to have a consistent release point and be able to stay square with your upper half so you can be more accurate and put that ball on a dime, right? So when this quarterback goes to throw, there's a pretty good position to be in, right? Front stride's coming down, he's at that opposite L angle, his hip is starting to rotate through, but when you guys go from here to the release point, when you guys go from opposite L to vertical L on that 90, you got to be able to stay square with your front side because we want to make sure that I have a nice consistent release point at 90 degrees, or if I need to change up the angle, I can. Now, what so many quarterbacks have been taught to do is lead with their front elbow. I saw somebody talking about this on Instagram the other day saying that, oh, to get more power, you have to lead with your elbow to make this throw. That is the most wrong statement that you could possibly make. The power comes from your legs, weight transfer, and torque generated from that upper half staying square to the throw. So your body is split down a midline, right? You have your spine. So whatever your front side does, it's going to affect your release point, right? So what this quarterback does to get power is rather than letting his hips rotate through like we were talking about in the last clip and keeping that front hand tight to his body, he swings the elbow downward. So when you guys swing the elbow downward like so and pull this thing down, anytime that you guys throw, your release point is going to get pushed what? It is going to get pushed up rather than being at that clean 90-degree angle. Same thing, a lot of quarterbacks like to swing their shoulder outward. What does that do to the arm? That's going to make the arm fly. So we have to make sure, fellas, that we don't pull this elbow down because you see how his release point gets high. You see how he's kind of got to lean out of the throw as well. And that release point is here. Now, again, this wasn't a bad ball. It's not like he threw a bad ball, but it's not going to be consistent. The whole point of throwing mechanics, fellas, is to develop consistency. It's not about developing, oh, okay, can he just be, is just going to be accurate? No, I don't want you to be accurate 5 out of 10 times. I want you to be accurate 9 out of 10 times, 10 out of 10 times. And having that consistent front side is what will get you to that. So when you guys get to this position right here, you guys have seen it all before. Watch film of Josh Allen, watch film of Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. That front hand just stays right there. It's the hip rotation. It's the weight transfer from the back leg to the front leg that brings you through. And that hand, a phrase I tell my quarterbacks, try to bring your chest to your front hand. Try to bring your right shoulder to your front hand. But this quarterback doesn't do that. His right shoulder's here. His left elbow is going down towards the ground, and that affects that release point, and that doesn't give you as much torque on the ball as we would like. So make sure, fellas, that when you guys throw, that front hand stays somewhere by your collarbone and you stay square to it. Your hips and your shoulders should be completely parallel to where we want that ball to go. He should stop his hips and his shoulders right here. If he would just stop right here, keep that hand by his frame, and let that lower half rotate him through, that ball would have a lot of torque and a lot of velocity coming off of his hand. So if that's what you guys thought on this quiz, that is 100% correct. Just make sure, fellas, that we are paying close attention to the front side of quarterbacks and pay close attention to what your coaches are teaching you about that front side. You have a coach that tells you, hey, swing the front elbow down for power, nod your head, say yes, sir, and don't do it. Know that you have to rotate with your hips, transfer your weight, and let that bring the ball through, okay? So now, last clip that we're going to talk about here on this throwing mechanics quiz. I'm going to play it full speed, pause the clip, then think about what he could do a little bit better. So he's going to be throwing this route here to take a hitch on it. Now, what do you guys think? Again, I'll play this thing in slow motion. So he gets to the top of the drop, hitches up, and then lets this thing fly. So, again, hitches up, lets this thing fly right here. So pause the clip. Now I'm going to get into a breakdown explaining what he could do a little bit better, okay? So now, when you guys get to the top of the break and you guys have to hitch up on a throw, it is super important because, again, like you guys already know this probably from watching these clips, if you're familiar with these clips, is that this back leg wants to be underneath your back frame. You want to have your weight shifted back. You want to have about 70% of your weight on your back leg, so that weight on your back leg you can transfer through. When you transfer that weight through, that's what gives you hip drive, that's what gives you power on the ball, that's what gives you leg drive, all those great things, right? So when you guys guys are at the top of a drop and you're having to take a hitch, whether you're ripping a comeback, maybe it's like a later out developing concept, maybe it's a dig route, whatever it is, and you guys have to hitch. When you have all your weight on your front foot like this, that's fine. You just have to make sure that you shift it back to that back leg. Now, if you guys were talking about the weight on the back leg and shifting his weight back, you guys would have been correct. If you guys were thinking about something else, that wasn't necessarily the correct answer, but that's the main focus of this, is being able to get his weight to that back leg. So he lands there, and you see when he hitches up, that weight never shifts back to the back leg. The back leg stays wide. It stays outside of his frame or outside of this back shoulder. When you guys hitch up, you want to have, you see how he's got like 90% of his weight here? You guys want to do the best you can to shift that weight backwards, shift that weight to that back leg on the hitch to be able to get you some power, but he keeps the weight shifted forward. So when your weight's shifted forward, you've already essentially transferred 50, 60% of your weight, right? So if you don't have any weight on this back leg to transfer, you're not going to have any power. Your back leg is going to extend behind you, and it's going to trail your back hip behind the throw, and you're going to have your shoulders come ahead of your hips like the very first clip that we talked about, right? So when he hitches up, you see how when he goes to throw, what happens? Back leg extends, back leg almost like completely extends, and those shoulders are going to end up leading those hips. And you see again, shoulder and elbow leading that back hip, back foot is trailing behind. That's simply because when you guys hitch up, if you don't get that weight to that back leg, you have no drive, you have no hip rotation. You see how his front hip locks out, very similar to that club neck clip that we were looking at the very beginning of this. So we have to make sure, fellas, that when we take that hitch, your weights get shifted to the back leg, your weight stays back, and I'm transferring it through to be able to get as much power as possible and get that hip rotation so the hips can rotate through before that ball. My hips can come through before my shoulders end up coming through, okay? So I'm going to play this thing full speed again one more time. If you guys talked about the hitch or you guys thought the hitch, when you pause the clip, you would be 100% correct on this. Make sure, fellas, that when we take a hitch on the throw, we shift that weight back and get 70 to 75% of my weight on that back leg. All right, guys, we want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I always appreciate the feedback. And again, if you guys like this video format, want to see more videos like this in the future, please don't hesitate to leave your opinions in the comments. Again, I'm taking all feedback. It helps me come up with new ideas for the channel, so I 100% appreciate it. And again, fellas, if you guys are local to those 8 cities that we were talking about, Houston, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Los Angeles, California, want to come out and get some work in with us, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our off-season camps. I'll see you guys next time.